Okay, so the other questions that I had were more like, when you guys were going to school, because you went to Hutt and then you went to Mont.
High school?
Yeah, like, or even at primary school. What
Okay.
were your, like, what did you guys have in terms of sexual education? And do you feel like it was good or bad, or what was?
Yeah, the first sex ed I remember was at intermediate,
Mm.
and
Did you have the police come to your school?
yeah, we did
Yeah, that was the
as
same.
well. We
Yeah.
had like
What did they
a drug.
do?
Was it the drug one? Yeah.
Mhm.
But I can't remember that much about the intermediate one.
Mm.
I think it was more about kind of puberty and
Mm.
things like that than actually trying to, I don't know, really discuss too much about sex. But at high school we definitely did.
Mm.
Had a sex ed class that went for, might have been a day a week, like an hour a week
Mhm.
for a term or something like that. And that covered more detail about STIs and safe sex and things like that. But I think for most of it, it was much more on the kind of the mechanics,
Mm.
either mechanics of sex or childbirth or
Mm.
things like that, and didn't really talk a lot about the emotional side,
Mm.
which I think is something that's really lacking.
Mm.
And yeah, because it wasn't, you know, you could see some of these people who were having sex and they might be having safe sex, but they don't have a very good understanding of emotional damage that they can do to people, or yeah, and things like that.
Were you talking about, like, because I know we've talked about what girls get. Like, most of what we get is a heck of a lot of contraception and stuff, and at least that's what I got. Did you
Okay,
get that?
see, it was all together.
Mm.
So we were like taught how to put condom in a banana and how to have, you know, safe sex vaguely and how an I remember watching this clip of an erection in black and no, in like the heat sensitive thing. So you could, not in like, it was in a weird black and white and then with the heat sensitive and it kind of goes, it's pretty much what I remember, and then I remember describing that for like weeks because it was so hilarious.
Mm.
But and like I remember the teacher writing all the different words that everybody had for sex and was like, every single year I swear there is another word.
Mm.
And then but like I don't really remember much about childbirth gone through.
Mm.
We discussed in science the idea of like how you know, sperm goes swimming and then it gets blah 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 and this, that and the other thing. We vaguely covered all the different contraceptives and the pluses and the minuses of them.
Mm.
Pretty much female contraceptives and then condoms. But I never went through the costs of them or how to get them or any actual practical
that's a good point,
aspect.
actually.
It
Yeah.
just vaguely covered it.
It's like,
Like,
you should
these
make
are the
sure you're
kind of
protected, but
options.
it doesn't say how you would really go about doing that.
Yeah.
It's almost like, it felt like they almost didn't really want to tell you because they don't really want to encourage you to be having sex.
Well,
But
exactly.
yeah, but you should be aware of it. But
Because in my school there was quite a few people and a lot of rumours about people who got pregnant and had abortions or,
yeah.
you know, were having sex or started having sex
Do you
at
think that-
12.
But do you think that like, is that, yes, you grew up in a very rural place, do you think that was, one, the environment, but also do you think that maybe they just weren't taught about what was going on enough, or do you think it was just the environment and their culture?
It's really hard to tell.
Yeah.
Like, I try and understand more and discuss it with different people and see what their situations are. But often it's just how well it's hidden.
Yeah, I had a lot of pregnancies.
Yeah.
I think we only had
Probably
one,
not.
like, maybe two, but I remember, but yeah, no, I don't want to make this about myself for the video, but the, yeah, other questions I was trying to think, because I guess with you, do you feel like when you were like, because I know what I got, but I had no idea what was happening in the boys' version. Like, do you feel like you got enough to understand like what you needed to know? I guess, like, do you feel like you were equipped with what you needed at the time, or?
Yeah, I suppose a big part of it is too though that was the school side, but I also had parents who were quite close to that. You know, that was the kind of the next.
Yeah, did you guys like have the talk?
Mini talks.
Oh, that's cool.
That's really awesome. I don't
My
really remember.
mum's very open, so she probably told me about childbirth.
Oh, she
about
probably
8.
told me about told you about how she got pregnant and this
Yeah.
scenario and that one.
Exactly.
And, yeah,
I'm surprised she hasn't told you yet.
I think she has mentioned
might have
various
done,
different things. Yeah. Wait, so do you go to an all guys high school?
No.
That was mixed, and then you went to an all girls.
Yeah.
Yeah, which would be quite different.
There is the whole intersection between sexuality and like sex ed, which doesn't really seem to be covered as much. At least you found that.
So I remember them covering what is the difference. I honestly forgot the exact explanation, but what's the difference between gender and sexuality? But they didn't really go into that very much. They kind of listed a few different things and vaguely what they are, but we never discussed it. It was just kind of like, oh yeah, this is a thing. But then at my school it was definitely kind of a bit more, guys were guys.
Yeah. Well, I asked Celia this question when I was interviewing her, but for you, do you feel like your sexuality and your gender are very put together? Because I know that some people don't. I know that some people have that opposite, but do you feel like when you're younger maybe you were told because you're a man you should date girls, or do you feel like those two things are connected?
Not logically like that. I think that's partly that's how I feel. That's I'm attracted to a woman, and that's just the way it is. But I mean, it was certainly that was the expectation from everybody. So I'm sure that is there. It's just.
It's kind of really, it doesn't have to be spoken out loud because it should be so obvious sometimes, in a lot of communities and a lot of discussions.
Yeah. And I suppose it's until you actually question it that you would even really think about it.
It's probably when you're even younger and you go, when you're really small and you don't really get it and you go, Mummy, why are you with Daddy or whatever? And she goes, well, I'm a female and I am this and he's a male and he is this and so that. And it's just kind of something that people explain from a personal point of view when you probably start to get to that talkative, inquisitive stage.
If you guys hadn't had sex ed or some sort of thing, what do you think life or things would have been like?
Is it like a formal one, like at school, or is it
just
being able to?
Yeah. Do you think that do you think your parents would have filled in the void, or what? So you think that? Yeah.
My parents definitely would have. I mean, they kind of did anyway. They sort of, you can ask them any question. And
super sharing though.
Yeah.
So expect that.
Yeah.
I don't even know. I don't remember my mum explicitly telling me anything. I remember aspects around my period probably a bit more. That she was like, this is gonna come, and I was like, it hasn't. And she's like, it will.
Did you ever have did you ever have around the period, was that kind of a womanly thing? Because with my mother, it was, when I first got her, she goes, you're a woman!
Oh, okay.
It was that whole thing. So I had that kind of coming of aging, but did you have that around periods, or was it more just this is a biological thing?
Nah, she was just like, this is gonna happen, it's probably gonna suck, but yeah, you just kind of have to deal with it. Yeah, that was pretty much what I remember. There might have been more in there.
So you think that you without the formal sexual education, you might not have gotten anything, or you might have gotten a little bit?
I probably would have gotten something. But I guess as a young person I did kind of experiment.
We're not gonna go into that.
No, we're not. I assume that they would have filled some gaps,
Yeah.
but I guess, like, I'm really understanding that my mother was a single mother of 3 children. Like, she had a lot on her plate. And my sister was just annoying. She wasn't really gonna help me out in those respects at all.
So do you, like, I guess, now looking back, do you feel like having that education was helpful or beneficial in the long run?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. I probably would have had sex a lot earlier. Just out of curiosity more than anything. Like, if someone kind of mentions something but doesn't give you any more information, you go, huh. And, like, I can observe from who I was that I probably would have. In high school, maybe not, but I'm not sure. Like, yeah, it could have resulted in me being one of those, you know, mums stuck in the hole that is not. And there's a lot of them who just, you know, have a kid, pop one out, and then they feel like they're stuck there forever. And a lot of them end up in bad relationships. That's really sad. But then they had a sex ed, so I don't.
You don't think it's to
why.
do with that? It's something else. Yeah, interesting.
I don't know why that is. They frustrate me. They never seem to really have life aspirations.
Yeah.
Yeah, they drive me nuts.
So that's what I think is different about sex ed. If you have some of that emotional and that side of things, there's the bit where it's like actually, I don't know. I mean, being a single mum, that's fine if that's what you want, but no, having children is not really a tool like that. Yeah, I think for me with sex ed, if I hadn't had it, it probably wouldn't have changed that much about my life, but I definitely think it was a useful thing to go through and probably made it easier for me to maybe talk to my peers about it, to my friends about it, because it made it it didn't make it a taboo thing. Like, I felt comfortable talking to my parents about it, but having, you know, knowing that your friends have been through the same kind of course, that you can just talk about it. Or
Did you guys, because in my experience, I was probably one of the only people who was actually cool about talking about that stuff. I was unusual, so did you, like, were people cool to talk about, like, was it fine to talk up to your friends about this sort of stuff, or was it still kind of like, oh, we have other stuff to talk about and I don't really want to talk about that? Because I had that a couple times where people flat out said, like, why do you want to talk about this?
Yeah. I don't think it was very topical. We played cards and we discussed books and, you know, cool alternate realities. We didn't, like, sometimes relationships was kind of mentioned, but it wasn't really in terms of sex. And because I never felt the need to be in a relationship, I didn't really care. I didn't need to bring up those topics. And, like, I don't know, I probably have a different viewpoint because my mother was a single mother and she had a few different relationships, but there wasn't a huge sexual aspect in my home life. It was mainly just possible relationships, who I kind of chased off pretty quickly. Yeah, so it just wasn't on my mind.